And we're live with the Chester Sky Show. Today's guest is Josh Sahunta, fellow songwriter, singer, performer, entertainer, producer, I suppose.
Yeah.
All the things. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
We've known each other since
Junior high.
Many years ago. In fact, when you were like, I'm going to sing, and people were like, I don't think he's going to sing.
Exactly.
And he went and he did it.
Before even I said I was going to sing. Oh man, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so you've got a new song that just came out and did pretty well. The song Summer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Leave Summer Behind. That was, I wasn't even going to put that song out. That song kind of came out just on a whim a little bit. There was a national songwriting competition, basically, and the only requirement was that it had to be a summer song. And I kind of procrastinated a lot to write that song because I didn't know how to write a summer song for this particular summer, because it wasn't really a typical summer. And so I wrote a pretty honest song about just how I felt about this year and this summer and how it's been very different from every other summer. And it ended up winning the competition. And
tell us a little bit about this competition, because our viewers don't know about it yet.
Yeah, so it was put on by Chorus Radio. And it was like, so basically every participating radio station across Canada that is under the Chorus Radio heading was part of it. And basically every local station that was representing its city was kind of promoting it. And so in Edmonton, it was Kissin' Country. So At first I thought it had to be a country song. And I'm like, I've never written a country song, but I'll try. And then I found out it was actually under the Chorus Radio, and it could be any genre. So I was like, okay, let's try something a little different here. And it was a $20,000 prize, and
woo!
Yeah, so the most I've ever won at one time. And and then I just decided to put the song out, put a little music video to it.
Yeah, the music video is, how would you describe that?
It's a collage.
It's like a John Mayer recent video.
It's like it was heavily inspired by New Light.
New Lights, okay.
And yeah, I was like, how do I make a music video to a song like this? Especially because you can't really go anywhere and like film a music video. And then I thought, why not just try a green screen thing?
Yeah.
Like that would be kind of hilarious. And I definitely used the John Mayer thing as some inspiration. And I just wanted to fill it with like references from this year. And now we have it.
Yeah. Did you film it yourself? Because it looks like you did a good job with the green screen.
Thank you. Actually, there was a friend of mine. He owns a studio in Edmonton called Hey You Studio, and he actually had a green screen. And I just asked him if he could, if he had any experience with it. And he's like, I've never done it before, but let's try it out. So it was an experiment for both he and I. So it turned out really good.
Oh, that's exciting. When you were writing this song, what went into the creation of it?
That's a tough one, because I wanted it to sound happy and summery. So I kind of thought, okay, what better way to sound summery than a ukulele? And that was kind of the driving instrument through the whole song. And if you listen to the song without paying attention to the lyrics, you would kind of think it's a happy song.
Ew.
And it's a really positive song.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of play off that. It's almost like ironic in a way, because like you'd expect it to be a happy song, but it's actually like the lyrics are really like, cynical. And I kind of liked that juxtaposition a little bit. And I just played off that. I tried to make the music as cheery and happy as possible. And then the lyrics kind of the complete opposite a little bit, but with a little like touch of optimism.
A little of the snarky sarcasm in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then that thing's done quite well on Spotify too.
Yeah, I mean, it got added to a couple playlists and it's on its way. But I mean, that song already accomplished more than I could have asked it to. So
yeah,
if it got 0 streams, I don't care.
You've already succeeded with that one.
Yeah, that one's done.
There seems to be a lot.
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
I'm just glad it's out because I had to listen to it so many times before actually releasing it, and then I had to it had to be the. It's almost like when a song is new to the public, you're already sick of it as an artist.
Oh, for sure.
Because you've heard, especially when you because I produce and mix my own stuff, and so, I mean, I've heard it a million times already by the time anybody else heard it. So I'm so ready for it to be out in the world. And that song in particular, I listened to even way longer than any other typical song. And I was just so happy it was out so that almost I could put it out of my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
And just think about what's next. But I'm still very grateful for that song.
No, I completely get it. Though you're the most likely guy to be sick of your music.
Yes.
I don't know how a singer can do the same song for 50 years. It's exciting for maybe a few years, but then it's got to be frustrating when you're old and you got to do it still.
Especially when you're so big that you have to do a reunion tour to play the one song that everybody knows you for.
And they only know that one song. They don't want to hear the rest of them.
Yeah. Man.
Play the. Did you see the Will Ferrell singing Netflix movie that came out a little while ago, and they had to play Bing Bong or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So. It was kind of like a comedy sketch type of thing, right? Yeah.
They had to play Ding Dong, and oh no, I don't want to play this stupid song. Yes, gotta play it again.
Yeah, seriously, they're never gonna let that one die.
You win the world competition, they're no, we want to hear Ding Dong.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I guess we all hope to get that song that we don't want to play.
Yeah, that's that's when you've made it, I think.
If you get asked to play stuff you don't want to play, that's when you know you've done it.
Yeah. It's people still listen to that one.
Looks like you've also had a bunch of success getting songs to Netflix shows Pretty Little Things, and you had another one on the show Order, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I actually met a music supervisor in Edmonton, I want to say 3 years ago. She was part of a panel, and they were just kind of speaking on how to get your songs placed.
How do you get your songs placed?
There's so many ways that it's almost futile to try any one of them. You kind of just have to spread your stuff as far as you can. And I got really lucky, and it was nothing that as much as I want to tell you I did this and I'm it was luck. I met this individual and had a conversation with her, and actually my friend Kenny kind of acted as my wingman a little bit. He was yeah, this guy sounds like Ed Sheeran, you should play his stuff, you should listen to his stuff. Yeah. And she's oh, we're always looking for people that sound like Ed Sheeran because we can't afford to actually use Ed Sheeran songs. And she's yeah, send me your stuff, I'd love to hear it. And so I sent her all my stuff, and she really liked it, and I kind of thought she was just being nice. Yeah. But then I want to say 2.5 years later, she reached out to me and she said, hey, I might have a placement for a couple of your songs. And I was whoa, I thought you forgot about me. And so she told me about the Order. She told me about Tiny Pretty Things, and she was I would love to place these particular songs on these shows. If you're interested, let me know. And I'm obviously I'm interested.
Obviously.
And the rest is history. But yeah, getting your songs placed is even though I've had it happen twice, it's not easy. It's you have so much competition, and even just getting music supervisors to listen to your music is a challenge. And sometimes they only listen to songs that are pitched to them by like a publishing company. Some, like, a lot of them don't even take unsolicited emails. And so I think, again, with going back to saying I got lucky, is I got lucky because I met her face to face and had a conversation with her, and that kind of, domino affected into getting placements.
Have you ever thought of doing more scoring side, like that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I started, because before I sang, I literally just like composed music. Yeah. And I had this like really crappy program called Mixcraft, and I used to just create, like, I used to watch a movie that I loved and then like make my own soundtrack for it.
Oh,
like I can't tell you how many like fake Lord of the Rings soundtracks I made, or like my favorite movie at the time was Inception.
Yeah.
I loved the soundtrack in Inception, and I would like come home from school and like get on Mixcraft, and like they had horrible sounding like keyboards and strings and stuff, and I used to just like make my own soundtrack for Inception. And that's kind of like where I got started. And so that's still something I love to do. And it's just I don't have as much time to do it nowadays, but it would be really cool to like actually get into that professionally, but not for a while.
I find that with doing soundtracks, you have to think quite differently than when you're actually writing for yourself.
Yeah.
It's all about like how does this fit with everything else in the movie?
Exactly.
When you're doing songs, are you actually thinking about how you're going to perform it, or is that not really a factor? It's just the feeling.
Good question. Yes, especially as my sound has gotten a little bit more.
Because you do a lot of live stuff, so
yeah, like live stuff is awesome, and I really love playing live with a band. And I love live instrumentation, and I love, guitar solos, and because I love the guitar. It's my favorite. Like if I had to get rid of everything that I own, I would keep a guitar, because it's just like that. It's the thing for me. And
that's your finger, it's your arm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I it's hard because my recorded music is quite poppy and produced sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I always try to keep an element of live instrumentation in there for that purpose, because if I were to play it live, it's like, how does this translate to a live setting? And so, to answer your question, yes, I do try to keep that in mind, but sometimes it's hard when I have a really cool song idea that, I mean, practically doesn't really work live.
A lot of songs don't.
Yeah, and I had this cool thing I got a couple of years ago called an MPC Live, and it basically, like, you can trigger tracks on it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of dabbled with that, and it allows me to kind of bring the produced elements into a live set. And so what I'll end up doing is, like, the MPC will be my band, and I'll trigger, like, okay, this part is the drum section. This is where this comes in. This is where this comes in. And I just need to hit these pads to make that section of the song start. And so I basically took my electric guitar and would like play and then hit these buttons really quick to like trigger the next part of the song. And like I think it sounds good. Like I mean, it's almost like playing to a metronome. Mm-hmm. And it's you can't have that like freedom to like go off the click a little bit and like improvise, because you're so like tied to that track.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Click. So it's like, it's this balance, right? It's like, I'm still trying to figure it out, and I don't know when live shows are going to continue, but
I think that's going to be a problem that DJs run into all the time. They can't really play live. They have to rely on the backup track that they already dealt with. Then it's just about rearranging.
Exactly.
But I guess in your case, you literally could just, you know what? I'm just going to improvise something right here. Here's my guitar solo now.
Yeah, and I do guitar solos over those tracks, but it's very revealing as a musician, because I think one of the biggest problems for myself and for a lot of musicians is that we don't practice to a metronome.
It's true.
And so it really reveals how sloppy your playing actually is when you're forced to play to a set tempo.
Yeah.
Because when I'm playing with a band live, like it's impossible for everybody to be synchronized to a tempo if there's no metronome playing in your ears or something. So it's a little bit more flexible, how sloppy you can be without people noticing. Whereas when you're playing to this, like,
I'm off time.
Yeah, if you go off time, everybody knows.
Yeah.
So
way harder.
Yeah, it's way harder, but it actually also makes you a better musician because, like, you should be able to play perfectly to a metronome. But
yeah, well,
not many people can.
Maybe that's why they always want to have a live drummer instead of a synthetic drummer, just so that they can adapt or at least make it look like there's some variation going on. It's not too obvious.
Dynamic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in terms of like live visuals and things, do you what is the kind of thought process that you got going on there? Because I know everyone's got their own kind of thing going.
To be honest, I haven't. Sorry.
Because right now, at the moment, it looks like you're definitely going for the casual, kind of real. This seems like a real person kind of vibe.
Yes.
I don't know if you know what I mean, but like that's still a choice, even if it's not conscious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel awkward having to like wear a costume of some sort.
Yeah.
And have like a particular uniform that I wear when I go on stage. And like yesterday, for example, I watched a little bit of this on Netflix. There's this new like Shawn Mendes live concert or something.
Yeah, that's right. A bunch of those, yeah.
Yeah, and I just watched a little bit of it yesterday, and I've noticed that like even like he's quite similar in the sense that he doesn't have this like specific like costume, so to speak, that he wears, but he still has this consistency because he typically wears like black jeans, a white tank top, and black boots. And I've noticed that across his concerts, that seems to be like a consistent thing. And so I guess with that in mind, I do kind of have a specific aesthetic. And like you said, it is very like, normal, like blue jeans, black t-shirt, black Vans kind of thing. Like very unsuspecting. Like you wouldn't like see me and expect like, oh, he's the guy who's going to be on stage. Like I could just be anybody in the audience.
We're not going to see the guy, the sequence. Oh, there's a show performer. There's the guy.
Exactly.
The feather guy.
Yeah, the feather guy. I will not be the feather guy. But yeah, I'm still figuring out my look. Mm-hmm. I still don't really know what my, my consistent thing is. I just know that I like wearing black t-shirts, as you can see. Yeah. I have more black t-shirts than anybody I know. And
the nice thing is you can go anywhere and perform now. You don't have to worry.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. That's my answer.
Yeah. What was it like performing back at university? That's got to be quite exciting. You performed on campus.
Yeah, it was cool, especially after graduating from there.
Yeah, that's sick.
It was like almost like a cool little reunion type of show because like all my friends who I was in school with were there, and
watch me, I'm on stage, sucker.
Yeah, it was like cool to be on the other side because when I went to the U of A, I was the guy watching the person on stage.
Yeah.
And like wishing that I could do that because it was a cool thing, like beer gardens, welcome week. It was like the big event of the year. There was no event in the university that, had a budget as big as welcome week.
Oh yeah.
And I know like they rented the Folk Fest stage. So it was a massive stage. And like, there was so many people there because beer gardens was just the most packed thing.
And it's cheap for students and everyone wants to go.
Exactly.
And it was not to study.
Yeah. And it was beautiful weather outside and like everybody just wanted to be there. And so it was just really cool to be on that stage and like see all those people. and be like, man, like that was like me like a couple years ago. So that was awesome. I love that.
When you're doing a show like that, the band is usually, it's not, I mean, you yourself don't usually travel around with a huge entourage, do you? It's usually just you go there and then you find, if I'm correct, you find your whoever's going to back you up once you get to your location.
Like in terms of musicians, or
yeah.
No, like I've had a pretty consistent group of people for a while. I don't like, you know, like committing to the exact same people. I like not trying out. I don't want to make it sound like that. I like performing with different people just because they bring different things to the table. Like, for example, one of my guitarists, for as long as I can remember, he was very like bluesy and like almost like had this like country vibe a little bit. Yeah. And so like all his playing style was very much leaning in that direction. And don't get me wrong, like I love his playing, I love that direction, but I kind of needed to, after a lot of feedback on my live performance, I was starting to realize that people were thinking that my sound was confusing a little bit, because they're like, it sounds like you're trying to be blues, but then your music is very like R&B, so it's kind of like weird, like what are you trying to do? So I tried a different guitarist, and he was definitely more like pop, neo soul, and I feel like bringing him kind of steered us back right in the direction that I was kind of wanting to go. But yeah, like I just like playing with different musicians, and I don't like having like a set band, because unless I find like the ultimate musicians, and then I'm like, okay, I'm never replacing these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far I haven't found like the musicians that I click with on that level. So it's still a progress.
It'll come sooner or later, and it doesn't have to be the same all the time, anyways.
It'll come when I have a larger budget. I'll tell you that. Right now, it's like my friends who just kind of like, you know, dabble in music, and I can afford to pay them because they're not that expensive. But I think I'll find that like upper echelon of like, these are musicians who I'd play a stadium with when I have like that kind of budget.
Well, you have been collaborating a little bit. You've been doing stuff with you made some songs for another guy. I can't remember what it was, but you released it recently.
Maybe it was the one that kind of got on BBC Radio and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that was like a EDM house remix of one of my songs, and it got a lot of traction on BBC Radio 1, so it was played on a couple stations with them. And
you got Tiesto to play it.
Yeah, Tiesto played it.
That's a big deal.
Podcast, yeah. And Kiss FM in the UK, and then a bunch of other UK station or European stations were playing it. And then that kind of
could you like, what was the submitting process for that? Like, it doesn't just play on the radio by accident.
No, that song actually got signed to a label in the UK, and basically the label did all the work. They just really liked the song. They said, "Hey, we'd love to sign it." It was the first project I've ever been on that was signed, so it was kind of cool to see like just what a label is capable of doing.
Yeah, what's it like from your perspective? Because it's going to be a different experience depending on the label.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way. That song would have done nothing had I just kept it independent.
Yeah.
It would have gotten maybe like a couple thousand streams at best, and that's it. But because there was a label pushing it, and they had their own skin in the game, and they had these connections to UK radio, and you know, they also knew the house world way better than I do, because that's not really my genre. But it was just like seeing all these amazing things happen for the song, and almost feeling like I didn't do anything to earn them. But it was kind of cool to be on autopilot for a change and like let someone else push a song. And it was awesome. Like, it's really cool. just to see like what a label is capable of. And it also is kind of like humbling a little bit because you always think you can do better than a label, but sometimes it's just impossible to compete with the resources they have. And this was one of those situations.
Yeah. It's one of those things you're like, do I need a label? Let's do it myself. Yeah. And then you see what a label can do and you're like, whoa.
And you're like, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
They can get me into this? I didn't know I could get into that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What about performing? You performed in New York. What was that like?
It was awesome. It was a music festival called Mondo, and that was just a submission process online. And I wasn't expecting to get. See, I do this weird thing where I just submit myself for everything. Because I kind of just think that like if I apply for 500 things, maybe 3 of them will get back to me and accept me.
Probably the right approach.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'll just apply for everything, even things that are in Europe, because I just assume that I won't get it. But if I get it, I'll be like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess I'm going to Amsterdam. Like, you know, things like that. So this New York thing was one of those things. I just applied for it, wasn't expecting to get it, found out that I got accepted, and then made my plans at that point where I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to New York now. Mm-hmm. And lucky for me, I had a really close connection in New York. It was a marketing firm called Marauder, and a good friend of mine works for them, and he was like, "Yeah, come to New York. Like, we will." Yeah, he's like, "Well, I'll take you around, and you can come check out our space, and we'll get you some of our like private showcases." And I was like, this is a no-brainer. So I went for a week, and it was awesome because I've never been to New York, but I've always wanted to go. And it very quickly became one of my favorite cities that I've ever been to. I loved the atmosphere. I loved like the hustle and bustle there. And like, I had a couple days where I just had nothing to do. So I just took the subway around and explored, and I looked on my Google Maps. I'm like, hey, I want to go see the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
So how do I get there? And then I would just like follow the instructions on Google Maps and eventually find my way there. And it was just awesome. It was the first like major trip that I've done by myself. And so it was like, as much as it would have been cool to have some friends there with me to like explore New York with, it was actually quite fun to be there by myself. And
yeah, there's something for that, isn't it? Traveling alone.
Yeah, for sure. And almost just to like prove I could do it, because I was a little bit intimidated, especially because it was New York, and like it's New York, like
it's the big apple,
a big city. It's a big, busy city, and it was like it was more intimidating to go there by myself than it would have been to go to like Calgary or something.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, yeah, so I did that. It was awesome. I had some really great showcases, met a lot of cool people, made a lot of connections in New York that when I go again, it'll be really cool to reconnect with. And I think that's just how you do it. You just have to.
Do you find the performance there, it was different than, what was it compared to back home? Because it's got to be a different atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, the people there were definitely, see, it's interesting because this is something I noticed when I toured in England as well, is that there's a much bigger culture for music in places like New York or London. Actually, almost anywhere I went in the UK.
Anyway, big city was.
Yeah, because like one of the things people actually do for fun there is go listen to live music, even if it's not an artist that they know. They'll just know that, oh, if they're playing at this venue, they must be decent, so they'll just go and check it out. And so I had that experience a lot in both New York and the UK, where like I would have random people coming to watch the show just because they knew that the venue was reputable and the venue always had good music. So it's good on the venues for doing their part to like always have good music, because it makes the patrons really trust their judgment. But that's almost non-existent in Edmonton. I'm sure you know, like people don't go listen to music for fun here. and the only people who do are other musicians.
Yeah.
So typically what you have is when you do a show in Edmonton and you don't really promote it, like you'll have other musicians at your show, but you won't really have like just general members of the public who aren't affiliated with music in any way.
You just get the critics.
You just get the critics. And it's really sad because like it's like the general public here, they will pay through the roof to go see some artist at Rogers Place.
Yeah, some big stadium thing.
Yeah, but they won't pay $5 to come see a smaller act in a bar or something like that, or a smaller music venue. So,
but it seems to be the bar experience is quite different as well. You go to New York and it's the feel, the sound, the smell. It's located in this nice street.
Mm-hmm.
Got the whole thing working for it.
Yeah. So NC, you nailed it on the head there because it's not entirely the fault of the public. It's just the vibe that has been created here versus there, because there it's like a lot of the bars and a lot of the venues have like historical significance, and they're places that people actually want to go to because they're like really cool and they have their own like characteristics, and you go, like you said, like you go in there and you feel like you're like, you know, part of something. Place. Yeah, whereas here it's kind of like I don't think many places here have that.
Yeah, you need to have a lot of people just to have the feeling as well. Sometimes more people are necessary. But how do you get the people in the first place? That's hard to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's also like, I don't want to blame it totally on those things. Like, I mean, it's also partly like the weather. Yeah. I mean, like there
8 months of winter.
Exactly. Like who wants to go out? Like, I know I don't. Like if it's freaking cold outside and someone's asking me to come watch a show downtown and I got to drive all the way downtown and
just gonna do that.
Park far away from the venue and walk a few blocks in like -30 to the venue. Yeah. And like, you know, like I don't blame people.
Yeah.
And whereas in like the UK, it's like, it's pretty, the weather is pretty consistent.
It rains a little, that's it.
It rains a little, but they're so used to it that it doesn't even faze them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's less at stake.
Yeah, that's right. There's no commitment in that. You want to see something fun? Sure, it's only 5 minutes away, and it's at the place we're gonna go anyways.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I find when you're performing at a small venue, it's really a different atmosphere than when you're performing at a big venue. Even not just because of the place. Forget the people itself. It seems the place shapes the performance way more than you'd think it would.
It does.
Yeah.
It creates the vibe, and then you have to feed off of that.
What's have you had any crazy rock star experiences while you were, you know what I mean? Have you had any of those?
Good question. I don't think so. Like I've had experiences where people knew about me that in a place that I had no idea anybody listened to me. Like, if that counts as a rock star experience. Like when I went on tour, there were people who like knew who I was in a city that I'd never played a show in before.
Was it UAK, you mean?
No, actually, it was specifically in BC when I did a Western Canada tour. And there was this place like Nelson. And I'm like, I've never even been to Nelson. And there was people there who like listened to my music and like came up to me and told me that they've been listening to me for a long time. And I was just kind of like, what? Like, are you sure? Yeah. So like,
I guess you're the biggest in Nelson.
Yeah. So I will always play in Nelson.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like, I'm not like a partier or anything like that.
Not yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I don't have any like crazy stories, but I would say, yeah, that would be as cool and as rock star as it gets for me so far.
Well, you got a Christmas song. That's like the first step.
Yeah. I mean,
that song is dope.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's my favorite one of yours from my perspective. What was going into that one? Because that one's quite different.
Yeah. I mean, It was literally just one of those things where like everybody needs to have a Christmas song.
Mandatory.
Not actually, but like, it's because I look at it this way: from November to December, it's pretty much a blackout period unless you put out Christmas music, and it's hard not putting anything out for 2 months. Even right now, I want to put out music. I've got songs I'm sitting on that I want to put out, but I can't because it's blackout period.
It's a waste.
Yeah, so it's like it's not going to gain any traction right now. It's not going to get on any playlists. It's not going to do anything because the industry is only looking at Christmas music right now. So there's no point. There's no point in releasing anything till January. And not even January, but like late January. So the Christmas song was literally just like, okay, well, I just want to put out something in the next 2 months. So there wasn't any like elaborate plan behind it. It was kind of just like, let's just do it.
It seems to be, everyone's like, oh, he released a Christmas album. But no, you actually kind of have to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a thing that artists do now. So and it has been for a while. So, I mean, as long as you can make it cool and make it like sound like you, I think there's nothing wrong with it. Like I would listen to a Christmas album, like John Mayer or Ed Sheeran. If they put out a Christmas album, I'd listen to it because I would assume that it would sound like a John Mayer Christmas album.
Yeah.
And it would probably sound pretty good. Even though I don't really like the Christmas music, like top 40 Christmas music, but like it would be cool to hear your favorite artist's take on it. So I don't know.
Well, a Christmas song doesn't have. I don't even know what qualifies a Christmas song. Like if you make a new song, sometimes it sounds Christmassy, but I don't even know what that is.
You need bells.
You need bells.
That's literally the key to a Christmas song. It needs to have sleigh bells in it somewhere, whether prominent or not. They just need to be in there.
Yeah, somehow it's a genre of music, but I don't know how it is because it's like what is it that makes it Christmassy? Bells?
It's bells, major key, and cheesy lyrics.
They have to be cheesy.
About warmth and love and goodness and family and friends.
And snow, yes.
And incorporating snow somewhere into it as well.
Yes.
There's your Christmas song.
Perfect.
It's a formula.
Formula for a guaranteed Christmas song. If you deviate from the formula, it's probably a spring or fall song. It doesn't no longer qualify.
Yeah. It's like, it just doesn't work.
Cool. I suppose that's pretty much the main gist of a podcast. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to got coming out in the next little while that you want to talk about?
No, not really. I mean, I'm just trying to survive the COVID-19 pandemic, just like everybody else. I am doing a project with Warner USA right now, so that's exciting. But it's obviously become kind of complicated with the quarantine and all that. So just trying to find a time where I can fly down to LA and record some vocals and finish up some production. But as far as everything else, it's just kind of trying to figure out some more projects to work on. And I'm doing a lot of production for other artists right now because that's kind of what's bringing in money for me. That's been a huge focus for me, and I'm top lining on a lot of EDM stuff right now. So like I'll have these artists from the UK or Europe reach out to me and ask if I can record vocals on their stuff, and they pay me for it. So it's kind of like, and it's not like associated with my brand at all. So it's kind of just like, I just put my vocals on it. They pay me, done. And that's been, I've lost a lot of income this year because of live shows going under.
Yeah.
I've had to be a little bit resourceful and think of new ways to make an income and make a living from music because I am doing it full time. So it's never a dull moment. It's always being creative and figuring out where to go next. And I guess, that's the last thing I'll leave you with is for all the musicians listening is just to, I don't know, don't be afraid of thinking outside of the box. Leaning on your other strengths, like whether that's teaching, There's a lot of people right now wanting to learn an instrument because they have nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoom lessons are a thing. I've done many of them in the last couple of months, both teaching and learning. And there's no better time to pick up an instrument. And so if you're good at an instrument, like do some Zoom lessons.
Sure.
And if you've got a great you're a great vocalist, like look for some projects that you can top line on, or there's a lot of different things that you can do right now. So hope is not lost.
Hope is not lost. You can still make music.
You can still make Christmas music. I just
still make Christmas music. Thanks for being on the show, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Make sure you tell everyone where they can get in touch with your music. What's the links we need?
Josh Sahunta, Sahunta, on Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere.
You heard the guy. Check those out. Josh Sahunta, musician. Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me.